We are on. Welcome, you guys, back to the show. This is Hailey. Hello, Hailey.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited. We just talked about how we both just kind of got done working out and we're like sweaty on the camera here, but nobody can really tell that. So if you're watching, just know it's glow. It's glowing.
Yeah, this is a glow.
Yes. So this is Hailey Babcock. That's how I say your last name, Babcock.
Yes.
Yes. Of Hailey Happens Fitness. If you guys aren't on Instagram yet, you guys can go check her out. You can see all of her stuff. So I was really excited to have Hailey on today because Hailey is one of us, to me, talking to all of the female fitness professionals out here. And I love Hailey and I love her personality and I love what she stands for. I think I started following you maybe a year-ish or more ago, something like that. And really, I was like, yes, drawn to your information because it very much aligned with kind of what I stand for. And you train a lot of women. So I really wanted to have you on to just kind of have some girl talk and also to have some of your opinions and professional advice even for all the ladies out here.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Let's get into the show.
Yeah. So first of all, Hailey, how did you get into fitness? You've been here for a while, but kind of what's your background a little bit? So were you an athlete all your life or did you just find it in your adulthood?
Okay. So, yes, I've been an athlete my whole life. I was a gymnast. I'm very tall. I'm 5'10" to be a gymnast, but I had a very late growth spurt. So I grew up doing gymnastics. And then when I got into junior high is what we call it, but now it's middle school.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't keep up. Middle school, I started still doing gymnastics, but then I was like cheerleading and that became like my passion and I was obsessed. So I was like all in all the way through high school up until, and by high school, I was really just tumbling because I was too tall for all the other stuff. And I really just wanted to cheer more. Up until my senior year, and I just had ongoing back problems and ended up having to have a discectomy in my lumbar spine, which pretty much ended my gymnastics career, but then also kind of, it was towards the tail end of my senior year, my cheerleading career as well. So that was fine. I mean, not fine, but like, got through that and then started college and didn't really have any. I was like, what do I do? So I started running, and I mean casually running and doing body pump classes and like, here and there with my roommates and all of that. And my I just kind of did that up until I got married in my mid-20s and kind of had a baby, a couple of years after. And I remember coming home, I had my first child, I quit my job. I've worked out, but like didn't really have a system.
Sure.
And
How many kids?
I have 3.
You have 3. Okay.
So this was my first, and I just started sobbing to my husband one night. And I was like, I don't know who I am. Like I was, managing multiple retail stores. And, before that, you identify with whatever you're doing. And I was just like, I'm lost. And I actually suck at being a newborn mom. Like I had no clue what I was doing. So he like eats his words now, but he's like, go find a hobby. And sure enough, I found Ironman, and that like kind of took me through the next up until I turned 40.
Wow.
I got really into it. I mean, I was hiring high-level pro triathletes as my coaches. I was in. I mean, obviously
in it
to win it. I mean, obviously I was an amateur. I had 3 kids now by this time. But it just like gave me something to do that I really liked. So I've always been active. And I started, I became a Pilates instructor when I was like 25 during all of this. So I was doing that, but it was like, very few and far, like 1 class a week, 2 class a week.
Is that because you loved Pilates or was it just something to do?
I tried a few Pilates classes. I moved to Boulder, Colorado in 2007. Somewhere around there. And I became a Pilates instructor in 2008. And I just took a couple classes and I loved it. And I was like, I want a part-time kind of gig. So I started doing that, loved it, did that for about a decade. Well, no, I mean, I'm still doing that, but like only focused that
Mm-hmm.
while I didn't have a lot of time. So I was doing Ironman and I was teaching Pilates.
And you were a mom.
And I was a mom, and my husband traveled all the time. So he's in advertising, and you know, he lived like in LA, New York, like half of every week he would be like somewhere.
Wow.
So anyways, this was like my sanity as kind of a single mom, but not single mom-ish.
You were kind of single mom-ish.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, after I actually finished my last 70.3 Ironman, which is a half distance Ironman, 2018, started having major knee pain. Nobody could figure it out. Went to multiple doctors. Eventually, January 2019, I just had to have like major knee surgery. Like I had a full meniscus root tear, which people have meniscus tears, but like at the root, the whole root was like torn off.
Yeah.
And so the surgeon that I went to was like, well, you're over 40. The success rate is about 50%. And I was like, I promise I can heal myself. Like I'm the perfect person. Just like, here's my money. Just like, you're the best. Just make it go away. Cause like, I have to be active.
Yeah.
So well, let me rewind a little bit. I had really started the year before, thinking like, well, I can't do Ironman forever. I just don't have it's so many hours a week. It's like all you can do. Yeah. And so I started looking, and I just started noticing weak spots in Pilates. And this is not a diss because I still have all the equipment at my house.
You were just noticing some gaps in the training, gaps in the training of Pilates.
Yes. Like, why can't, you know, women are coming 5 days a week and nobody could do like a full legit push-up.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, we're missing something here. A pull-up, forget it. Not that you would even have the choice in Pilates because you don't have the equipment, but like the strength gains weren't getting there, and women were getting older, and they were like, well, when am I going to look like you? And I was like, well, you don't want to train 15 hours a week for an Ironman. Not fun. And I just realized that like my body wasn't really responding how I wanted it to anymore either. I'm like, I mean, I was never big, so I would never say I've had that struggle, but I'm not petite either. So at 5'10", I'm a very, you know, average bone structure. Yeah.
Everything just stretched out. I used to always say, like, if I could, because I'm 5'4" on a good day, and I'm like, if I could just take my legs and stretch them just a little bit, it would get, so you have that longer body style. But you know, and I want to make sure, obviously, you know this, but anybody else is listening that has that. I have women that have your body structure and my body structure and everything in between. You still have your own struggles, and whether they're personal or not, you know, it's everybody has something that they want to work on, or like you said, your body wasn't responding, and somebody else might look at you like, oh, pish posh, why does she have to do anything? You're like, well, because I have excellence standards for myself, and this is just what I want to do. So you know, everybody kind of has their own struggles. So here you were, and you're like, these women are not getting as strong as I think they should, and my body is not responding the way I think it should. So you're finding gaps in Pilates.
Yes, and I realized that I would have never had to have this massive knee surgery had I been balanced, because my quads were wicked strong from hours and hours and hours of climbing and cycling, but my hamstrings were crap. And that over years of that asymmetry led to this. And everyone's hurt in Ironman. Like anyone that's over the age of 30, everyone's like, well, I'm out this season. I have this. I'm like, it's like, you know, just when. So I started seeing this. So I had surgery in January 2019. I was completely non-weight bearing for 6 weeks. And maybe that doesn't sound very long, but when you're active and have been doing like Ironman, it's a massive deal to be like, so I'm supposed to lay in bed. I can't even touch my toe down on this leg for 6 weeks. So
I was crutches, or were you like, what did you have to do? Just crutches for 6 weeks?
So crutches. Yeah. And I was just like, you know what? I am really good at finding a way and working around an injury. So I decided, number one, I wasn't going to watch any TV or and I was going to get certified as a personal trainer. So I spent the entire 6 weeks diving into, like, this course should have taken me like 4 months. And I was like, no, I'm doing it in 6 weeks. I've got nothing else to do. and just diving into all of this information and realizing I was like, okay, I don't have all the pieces. And this is why these women aren't having all the pieces as well. So I, found a way to this is another point, but like work around your injury. I sat on the arm ergometer, which is like the arm bike where you just go like this for like an hour. I would go in and my physical therapist was like, oh, here's Hailey again. And I would do intervals on it with my arms, but I was just like, I have to do something. And I had a reformer at my house, so I could still do core work. I could still do upper body, but I'm just like, I'm not sitting still.
Especially not from training for Ironman to nothing to it. Yeah.
And then after I was cleared, I mean, I literally had to learn to like, I went in to my 6-week checkup and I was just like, oh, you guys can just have my crutches. Like, I don't need them. And they're like, oh, no. You haven't walked for 6 weeks. You don't just walk out of here. And I put some weight on my leg and I was like, I know, I can't even walk. I was like holding on to the counter. I mean, I literally had no idea what it was going to be like. So, and I lived in New Jersey, which the hospital was in New York. And I took the subway in myself. And so I just thought I was going to like walk up, up all the subway stairs.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a lesson. I mean, it was terrible. But anyways, so I really started to see the weaknesses there. And so I kept training in Pilates for about another year up until 2020, we moved back to Boulder. But I was adding in at the time, I was adding all of my one-on-one clients. I was adding more strength training to it. So I was having them do more.
This time now you're a certified trainer and you're realizing more things and you're getting more educated and realizing the imbalances that not only if somebody as athletic and driven as you have, what are the other 90% of people that aren't like you experiencing? Yeah.
Yes. And so I actually documented it on Instagram, and then 2020 came, obviously everything shut down. Well, I was teaching a Pilates / TRX fusion class.
Okay.
And all my clients were like, Hailey, what do we do? And I'm like, I'm not just like calling everyone every day and giving you a workout. So I'm just going to start posting on Instagram. So I was like the TRX girl. And that's honestly where I thought my path was going.
Yeah.
Like if you go back 3 years, it's all TRX. It's quite funny now, but it grew my following really fast because everyone was stuck at home, and TRX is something that you could
take anywhere.
And you couldn't, you can't leave your house or you can't go to a gym. So TRX was like the best thing. And so I kind of went down that road for about a year, but I didn't love it. Like TRX reached out when they were launching their app and they were like, can we, talk to you? And I'm like, no, I really just don't. For some reason, like, it's just not my path.
There was more. You knew there was more.
I knew there was more. And I didn't know what it was. But then the more information. So then I met up with my business partner, Tony Butaji, who's in Australia. And I actually found him through, on Instagram, and he was launching a course for personal trainers. And I really liked his education. So I was like, well, I'm just going to sign up. It was like the program is called Advanced Program Mastery. I mean, I had no business being in. I was a brand new trainer. And I told him, I was like, I'm just jumping in because I want something to do. Like none of us have anything to do. And I'm just going to learn. And after that course, I was like obsessed. I took his next course and then I took his next course. So he has 3 courses. I took all of them. And by this time I was just getting, started training people. I built my entire basement was empty and I built it into a gym and started having clients here. But I was like, there is a mismatch in information for this women over 40. Cause that's all I would train. And dudes would reach out and I'm like, I don't train dudes. Sorry. Like I wouldn't be any good at it anyways.
I send him to my husband. So that's usually my default.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, sorry, not taking dudes. But I just like everyone coming in had the same issue. And then I started working at a commercial gym once that kind of opened back up, and everyone had the same issue. And everyone was just like, I don't know what to do. Should I fast? Should I do keto? Should I only lift light weights? Should I only lift heavy weights? Should I cut out my cardio? Should I only do cardio? I mean, it was just like all over the board. And I was like, oh my gosh. And they're getting sold everything.
Yeah.
Everyone, like we're already feeling our age. We're already insecure. And then everyone has a solution.
Sold on their pain points. That's a kind of a soapbox of mine. I'm like, get off the pain points. Like we already know they're there. Like, let's just stop selling the things.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like question anyone. Obviously, like we have to make money. So we train people. I have courses, but I do not take a stance on anything that is not in a published medical journal and that the people that are way smarter than me with PhDs agree on. I mean, and I found my people and I'm like, okay, they're not selling a product. Number one, if somebody's only selling a product to get you to your goals, well, that's a red flag. If somebody tells you there's only one way of eating and it requires cutting out half of the foods, that might be a red flag. There's reasons for things, but it's not, it just was, I was just like, okay, this is my mission. And I never imagined even 3 years ago that I would like have a podcast and have my own fitness app. And that wasn't necessarily, it was not in the cards, but I feel like I have found my true calling. And if I could, you know, if we could all do it for free, nobody needed money, I would do it for free. And that's how I know that I love it, because it's just,
it's exciting every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can be tired, but still want to do it. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I've been in the business of fitness for 25 years and I tell everybody, like, don't get into fitness for the money. Because sometimes it's not there, but if your passion and that is who you actually are, it will work out.
Yeah.
And that is another reason why I loved watching you kind of evolve. Cause again, I think maybe it's been a year-ish. I didn't know the TRX story. That's actually really cool. I have one in my closet right now. I just looked at it in the box actually the other day. I was cleaning. I was like, oh, I should go hang that up in the garage, because we have a pull-up bar in the garage and whatnot. But we have TRX bands. Actually, I use TRX bands. I'm a part-time intensive cardiac rehab director. So I have I have TRX bands for them that are hung up. Our cardiac rehab used to be a dojo. So it was kind of set up in a way with like weight equipment. We use ropes and all. I love getting my patients with weights. We have TRX bands. So I was like, oh, I have a TRX band in there and they're great, but like, not everything. You can certainly use them, and we do. So I didn't follow you then, but I watched your story after that. And of course, like there's very few female fitness and really any male fitness too that I will pay attention to. Because, you know, it's like, okay, well, I'm sure they're helping somebody. But that's, you know, that's not my jam or anything like that. But I really loved watching you. And we kind of really had a lot of the similar people that we followed. And that says a lot because as you said, if there's any diet with a name on it attached to it, I mean, again, I've been in the fitness space my entire adult life. And when I was the 20-year-old bikini competitor, if there was social media, I would have been the one that everybody's talking about today because I didn't know any better. And supplement companies were paying me, you know, so I look at them and I'm just like, oh, it sucks that you have to be on social media living that part of your life, because mine was tucked away. You know? But anyway, I followed you because I'm like, first of all, you didn't look anything like 40. So I'm like, how's this young girl on here knowing all this stuff? And I'm like, oh no, wait, we're the same age. This is great. So I love your story. I love hearing all of that and kind of how you found those gaps. And recently you've kind of really dug into a lot, like you said, the weight training and the balance. And I want you to talk about since I do know your injury story. I have my own injury story too. I also wasn't walking for 6 to 8 weeks, and it was just the worst part of my life, I think, as somebody who loves fitness, but, and I'm not sure your faith, but I always say, like, if you want God to laugh, tell him your plans. And then he's going to lead you all the way through. And your story reminds me of that so much.
Totally. 100%.
And I remember just thinking, like, I remember saying to God, I don't want to be in fitness anymore. I was so miserable and sad during that time when I couldn't move like you. And he just said, stop wishing and pushing yourself towards something and let me give you the life that you deserve. And I was like, just tell me how. And then and now we're kind of here. So your story reminds me a little of that, and where you're just like, this is not the way I want to live. And that's what I said too. I said, I don't want to live like this.
Yeah.
And there's got to be a better way. So I'm so proud of you. And that is so cool to see.
Yeah.
And I love your podcast. So I want to kind of talk about the injury part. So
Yeah.
obviously I get people that are like, I can't do that. Or I'll never be able to do those things. And I recently heard you, maybe it was on your story, or maybe you did a reel on it, about how we all kind of go through something.
Yeah.
And so I guess I kind of know, but what would be your advice to somebody that says, I can't do that. I've had hip and knee and shoulder, and I'll never be able to do those things. What would be your thing that you would say to a woman in your program or coming to you? What would be your advice to them?
Okay. Well, number one, there's not a single person I've met over the age of 40 that does not have any contraindications.
Mm-hmm.
No one's walking around like, I feel amazing. I've never had an injury. I've never had a broken bone. My range of motion is crushing everywhere. I mean, unless you're a professional athlete, like, not happening.
And you're
so
probably hurting somehow. And resources.
Totally. I mean, and I think the biggest thing that people miss, which is something that I push all the time on my platform, and that is building up your weak links, because everyone out there, I'm one, you're another, of thousands of fish in an overcrowded sea of people that can give exercise plans. So, as a consumer, they don't know. They're just like, I'm going to go with this person. I resonate. I like their personality. I like what they have to say.
Part of it, right?
Part of it. Yes.
Right. Part of it. Yes.
And I think the biggest thing that gets missed is this, training to train phase is what my mentor, Tony, would call it. And it's getting people at some point during a year, even from beginner to professional Olympic athletes. If you look at the athletes going to the Olympics, they are not doing the same program and destroying themselves all year round. There is a phase of their training where they have to build up. If they're swimmers, okay, well, maybe they're doing internal rotation 9 million times, but they're not doing as much external rotation. So what do you have to add into a program, or what do you know is noticeably weak on you? I mean, I can tell because I've trained enough women, and I'm sure you have too. I guarantee they'll walk in and I'll ask them, but sometimes I'm like, so before you ask, I'm going to tell you what your weak links are, or I'm going to write them down, because then I don't want it to be in your head.
Yeah.
And then I'll do some tests and they're like, oh, this, and this. And I'm like, exactly what I had. Because most of us have the same things outside of acute injury that's different. There's a lot of weak areas and muscle asymmetries. So all of my cyclists, I have a lot of endurance athletes that follow me, and they're one-dimensional. They're running in this plane, they're swimming in this plane, they're riding in this plane. And so how do we balance the body out so that we can live really independent lives? And, myself included, I love to PR. I love to climb up major mountains that I have never been able to climb, or new mountains. So everyone has their things, and a lot of people have physique, goals. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with body composition goals, right? But the majority of women are like, listen, Hailey, I don't need to look like I'm 28 and have a 20-year-old body, but I want to feel good in my skin, number one. And I want to be like my last 2 decades of life, whatever decades they are. Hopefully it's 80 and 90, or maybe 90 to 100.
Yeah.
I want to be able to live independently. Right. That, heaven forbid, disease aside, that some things we cannot control, but a lot we can, with good nutrition and good and having strong bones and strong muscles and lean muscle mass.
Yeah.
So really taking the time to dedicate a training year of doing, quote unquote, these weak links, these muscle.
I want everybody to stop for 1 second. Hear what you said. A year, you guys, a year. Dedicate a year. It's not going to happen in 4 weeks.
No,
or 6
and
weeks.
I'm not even saying like train this way for a whole year, but you have to like look at a training year and be like, what
Mhm.
do I want? Because everyone, if we all could have the holy grail all the time, everyone's like, I want to lose fat and gain muscle.
Yeah.
Yo,
All
that's
the
the
time,
holy grail.
forever.
That's what we all want
Yeah.
forever. But like, you can't do that all year round. And the fitter you get and the more muscular you get, the leaner you get, the harder that's going to be to
Mhm,
quote unquote recon.
mhm.
So you have to have a goal. No one, and the goal can be very loose,
Mhm.
because obviously our lives change.
Yeah.
Somebody could have a parent ill. Somebody could be like, well, I'm traveling or I'm moving to Europe. Okay, great.
Mhm,
But to have a basic plan instead of just being like, oh, I'm always doing kind of this cardio
mhm,
and I'm always kind of doing this strength. Like
mhm,
that's where I see it go wrong. And you have to build up those weak links. You
mhm.
have to dedicate at least 6 to 8 weeks and then strictly on that and then pepper them in to your training plans throughout the year. Little parts. It doesn't have to be your entire training plan,
Yeah.
but it has to be like little things in there. What do you really suck at? We all suck at something. Is it inner thigh strength? Is it rotator cuff? Is it foot stabilizers? Is it ankle mobility? What do you really like? Oh, this is kind of hard for me. I'm kind of terrible at it. Okay, great. Put a little more time into it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And so and I want you guys to hear that again, because that's something I always stress. Like, yeah, we can do a lot of things in 6 weeks. We can change habits and we can change our thought patterns and we can integrate fitness into our life and start to live in a standard for ourselves. Like start to imagine
Yeah.
what our future self is going to look like. But you said it to take it in phases and to say
Yeah.
have this one big plan but then to split it up. So what would be your average that you would say that you suggest to clients to split it up? Like, so say somebody has a big plan in a year of a body recomposition, because that's probably what a lot of people come to you for too, is they start, and I'm sure you're the same way. They start with wanting to come to lose fat, and I hope that they gain a lot of muscle, education, and the desire to be strong. Because a
Yeah.
lot of now, I think women might come to you to say, I want to be strong. I get a few of those, but most of them come because they want to look a certain way and
Mhm.
to lose body fat.
Yeah.
So what would be your like phases that you would say? So somebody says, I want to lose body fat. How would you break that down? Like 6 weeks, 12 weeks? How do you help them reevaluate like every few, like what's the weeks, like 3 months, 2 months? What do you like to do?
Well, first of all, totally independent on how aggressive you are with the diet, how much weight the person has to lose, and how
Mhm,
much time they have to commit to it. So
mhm,
I always I try to look at macro cycles, which are like 12-week
mhm.
periods, and be like, that will depend. But what I will say, so it's a hard answer
Yeah,
because
it's a
there's
loaded
lots of
question.
variables. It's
Yeah.
a loaded question. But overall, what I see where it goes amiss
Mhm.
is I tell my people when they start a fat loss phase, get in and get the hell out as soon as you can. Because what happens is people want to diet forever.
Yeah.
And after what I notice, after about 9 or 10 weeks, they're like, no, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go for 24 weeks. Cool. But now mentally, you're not giving as much as you did on
Right.
day one because you're tired of it.
Yep.
Rightfully so. So your brain is still like, no, I'm dieting, but your compliance is much lower.
Mhm.
And so you're not really getting the results. So then everyone thinks they plateau, and it could be a plateau, but not all the time. Usually it's the compliance is down. They're tired of doing it. And so the majority for most women, and this is out of someone that maybe is obese and needs to lose weight quicker and maybe spend more time. So for the average person, if I'm talking about the average female, the majority of the year should be spent trying to build muscle. And no one likes to hear that.
Mhm.
No one does because they're all like, no, but I want to be skinny
Except me
right
and you,
away.
we like to hear that.
Yeah. I'm like, you need to spend because I mean, I know you've had Alan Aragon on a bunch of times and I just had him on as well. And he's like, it's a slow grind. If you want to lose weight fast,
Mhm.
and on the flip side, if you want to gain muscle fast, good luck.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
But the more you're in this in between of like, well, I'm kind of dieting, but I'm not. And, I kind of am building muscle, but then I don't eat really well and really
Mhm.
low calories for a while. You're just spinning your wheels and you're not getting anywhere. So set
Yeah.
up a diet phase. I don't think, again, this is very individual for how much weight someone has to lose, but
Mhm.
whatever you decide, get into that and get the heck out. And then the rest of the year, really, until you are like, I am not comfortable in my skin, I don't want to do this, really try to work with a coach or find a program where you can progressively overload,
Mhm.
because you can't do the same thing. The body is not going to respond the same, to build the muscle. And it's a
Mhm.
slow grind.
Mhm.
But I always tell everyone in my courses, I'm like, if you are in this for the long haul, like you're not in it, like, my courses are either, most of them are 10 weeks.
Yeah.
If you are just in this for 10 weeks, like you're just going to go back to where you are. And that's not saying it's easy, but like, I want you to fall in love with this enough to where you're in this for the long haul. And if you're in it for the long haul, you push through and you focus on that. Have some data trends. Like there's scales out there. There's, DEXA scans, there's underwater weighing, like start somewhere. And I know financial situations are very different, which is why there's a lot of options.
Mhm.
Find something. And as long as you're using the same thing,
At the same time.
look at the trends and
Mhm.
see the trends
Yeah.
and really try to like inch up that lean muscle mass, because that is what's going to allow you to eat more food. That's
Mhm.
going to allow you to be more independent as you age. That's going to allow you to recover from injuries quicker. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Build bone. People forget, and I have to remind my own patients of this because I get
Yeah.
privilege to work with 70, 80, sometimes 90-year-olds that have never lifted a weight in their life,
Yeah.
especially these women.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're like, well, I just need my bones are too weak. I'm like, you gotta lift weights. And they're like, really? I love that's like one of my favorite things is to they call me the protein queen, and they is to educate them like,
Yeah.
no, you know that resistance is more than just looking like pretty muscle, because I like the way muscle looks, but you don't
Yeah.
have to. But you have to know that that's building your bone. So if anything else, it's bone, because Lord knows we need that.
Yeah.
Just the other day I slipped in my kitchen, and it was so random, right? My rug slipped underneath me. I was getting the kids some real quick from the fridge, and I slipped and I caught myself, like my inner thigh caught myself. That's one of my weaker areas because I've had hip surgery and all these
Yeah.
things. And I have built, like you said, I have trickled in and peppered in, as you said. I love that saying that you say, in my hip training every day for like
Yeah.
the past decade. And
Yep.
I can't do traditional leg stuff because of, just some imbalances. So I'm getting stronger every year, even from now. But I'm like, I caught myself, and I did have to go to the chiropractor that works with me, specifically
Yeah.
with my injuries. But I was so strong, I was still able to do everything just at like a 70%-ish capacity of what I normally would. Had I
Hmm.
not gained the muscle in those areas, I would have been jacked for a good 3 weeks at
Yeah.
least, because of the
Oh
way
yeah.
that I slipped and twerked everything. But I'm like, I was so proud. That was like a proud non-scale victory for me,
Yeah.
because my clients, I'm like, I walked out of that unscathed. I'm like, I can still carry on with my day. And I slipped on my rug. And I know that's so
Yeah.
random, but that's where I feel like we should be wanting to live, where we can
Yeah.
slip or fall or catch ourselves and not worry about it so much.
And I mean, Pilates, as much as I love it, again, I'm an instructor. It's not going to build your bone health. It's not
I've
going to make
never
your bones
done
stronger.
Pilates actually. And I guess I was never drawn to Pilates because I'm an old school bodybuilder, like gym bro
Yeah.
meathead. And I always viewed it as something that just I wanted bulky muscle. I was the one
Yeah.
weird one, and I thought,
Yeah.
oh, all the ladies are going to Pilates. But then as I got older, I thought maybe I should have done Pilates, because it does have some really good
Oh
things
my gosh,
about it.
amazing benefits,
Mhm.
but do it for the intent and the purposes. And if you cannot do it to build bone strength. You
But
can
people
do it to
still
be
do
more
it
flexible.
and then do all the other programs too. So you still
Yeah,
say, well,
add
I
it
need to
in.
good because I have a lot of people who love it. And I'm
Oh,
like,
I
I'm
do too.
not the expert. I don't know a lot about it.
I mean, all the cyclists, I'm a huge cyclist. I'm going to Spain in 2 weeks to ride my bike for a week,
Mhm.
but
Oh, yeah,
cyclists,
that's
it's
awesome.
not building bone, it's building muscle, it's building cardiovascular health, but you
Mhm,
need impact and you need load.
mhm,
And, those like yoga, Pilates, all of those are amazing. I would never ever like it's not a diss on it, but it
mhm.
does not count for strength training. No matter
Yeah,
what you're adding to it, it's not
yeah,
enough load. You're
yeah,
going to
yeah.
tap out with the 5 or 6, Pilates springs
Mhm,
and you're lying down. So we need the bone strength, and that's where the plyometrics comes in, and that's where the
mhm,
heavy lifting comes in and all of that. But I mean, it's confusing for people because everyone strength training is hot right now. Menopause is hot right now,
mhm.
and everyone is selling it.
Yeah.
I mean, including myself. I have a program with Stacy Sims. I'm selling it, but I also know that I'm selling I'm not selling something like, well, I'm in this field, so I'm going to try to just like kind of get on at whatever. I've aligned myself, like you said at the
Well,
first,
I
with experts that know more
yeah.
than me.
And I think that, yeah, and absolutely. And that's what I love to do too, is to, and like I said before we jumped on, I feel like iron sharpens iron. And there's a very small
Yeah.
handful of women in the fitness space, especially in the internet fitness space,
Yeah.
that really is, in my opinion, in my like I said, in my entire adult life, I've been in this space, and I can
Yeah.
usually spot people pretty quickly that are beginning. And I'm not going to talk down to anybody because we all started somewhere.
Yeah.
But I know the people that I want to be aligned with. And I love to be around people that are so much better than me, that
Yeah.
are smarter than me, and that we can learn from each other.
Exactly.
And I think that, like you said, like, you're like, I sell programs like that. Well, of course we sell programs like that. Of course we're aligned with that. That's where we are in our life. And in a marketing sense, I know you said your husband was he marketing? I mean,
Yeah. He's in
flooding
marketing.
sells. And people are attracted to some of those words, and you have to kind of trinkle them in somewhat so they know, like, hey, you can come to me, trust us. We can give you that information, but we're not going to sell you the red flag stuff. So you kind of, there's
Yeah.
a line you have to ride, too, because it is hot right now. Thank goodness, because I'm in the trenches,
Yeah.
like, I'm right there. So I'm so
Yeah.
happy that we have that information right now.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And I mean, and I always tell anyone who follows me, like, if it's not me and I'm not going to be the right trainer for everyone, that's
mhm,
fine, but find
yeah,
somebody and
mhm,
look at like, who do they follow? Do you
yep,
align with that? Who do they partner with? Do you
yep,
align with that? What are their credentials? Do you align with that?
yep,
I mean, and I don't have a PhD. I'm always looking for someone that's much smarter than me,
100%. Yeah,
like the Bill Campbells and the Alan Aragons and, the Stacy Sims and all of these people that like, good. Like they've done they know way more. So like, let's learn from them.
and they also
Um,
are different. And I feel like, fitness trainers and we all have our space,
yeah,
in the health field. And, and again, we are trusted by, and that's important to me too. Like, I'm trusted by the people that I respect, including
yes,
people that you and I talk about, but also, physicians that I know personally in my area. My husband owns CrossFit gym, and we are very, community oriented, and
yeah,
we pride ourselves on making sure that we don't, because as a fitness trainer, especially a very beautiful woman, I'm sure you could sell your soul to a lot of different companies, that you could make a lot of money to. And we just are very careful that we don't do that, because we want to align ourselves,
yeah,
with that standard. So
yep,
no, I
absolutely.
agree, and I didn't want to keep you too long. I know I took 40 minutes, 40 minutes of your time.
I love it. No,
So what would be, I guess, let me think. What would be your best advice for somebody that was just starting? And then I guess we already answered this. Like how long do you think that it would, an average, somebody should dedicate to their fitness programs? I say forever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this isn't going away. It's like paying rent. You stop paying rent, you get kicked out of your house. You have to keep it's forever. This is
Yeah.
what you're coming into forever. So I always say there's good, better, best. There's good
Mhm,
programs, there's better programs, and there's the best program.
mhm,
Do whatever you can because people are like, well, I'm always going to work out at home. Is the gym better? 100%. It's better.
mhm.
But not everyone's going to go there. Not everyone feels comfortable going there. So what's the next best thing?
Mhm,
And work with what you have there. But my advice for anyone starting out is like, just start. If it's in your basement with a few things, start
mhm.
because you're not getting any younger and it only gets better. I mean, you know, women all the time are like, I feel so discouraged because I couldn't do this in your program. And I'm like, why? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
why? You're
Mhm.
starting and you're doing something and you're only going to get stronger. So
Yeah.
everyone has a starting point, like you said. We all have been there. And, if you get comfortable enough to go to a gym, take up space
Mhm.
because most women are like, I don't want to take up space there. This is like still the men's zone. No, it's not.
Yeah. We're
Take up the
taking over.
space.
Yeah. Women are taking
Yeah.
over the gym. But I did see in your story.
Revolution.
Yeah, I did see in your story the other day, and it was comforting, and I think it's worth mentioning, because I do watch your stories. Yeah, I have like 5 stories that I watch, and you're one of the few that I, like, click
Oh,
and go through. And, you said that you were at a gym, and you were doing your own program, and even you felt a little bit intimidated for a minute.
totally.
You didn't know the space of the equipment, you weren't familiar with the gym, and it was so crowded.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's refreshing for a lot of people to see a professional that they look up to and to say, you know what, we all feel a little bit uncomfortable sometimes." And you said you chose a
Yeah.
different exercise and went somewhere else
Oh,
because
I couldn't even figure out the break, taking off the break. I was like, well,
forget
I'm
it.
out. I'm going somewhere else. So yeah, I mean, it's like it's hard, but I always say like, well, and if you're going to start at a gym, go there and do the things that you can't screw up. Can you, the leg extension, the leg curl, I don't care what it is. And
Yeah.
then just every week, try to add one more piece of equipment, get comfortable with one more piece of equipment.
Mhm.
Go in a time when it's not busy and work on that one piece of equipment. And then you just start adding to your toolbox or your arsenal of things you feel comfortable on. Because most people are just like, I don't feel comfortable at all. So I'm just going to go up on the treadmill, which again, we need cardiovascular health too, but take up space in the weights
Mhm.
room.
Yeah, I love that. And then what's your number one tip for kind of building habits? Because we all know this has to be a habit for the rest of our life at some capacity. What would be your number? I listened to one of your podcasts. You had somebody talk about a book you read. What was the book you read? It was about habits.
Oh,
Not the
there's been,
habits, but the other girl that you had a lady on your podcast.
yes. Dr. Gina Cleo.
Okay, I never heard of her before your podcast.
I think it's called The Habit Revolution.
Yes,
I
that was
might,
it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Gina, if I'm killing the name. Um, but yes, I mean, really like,
What's your number one tip for people when they're like, "Oh, I got to take my kids to school and I just keep messing up and I just can't do this, Hailey. Like I can't do this.
yeah,
How do I build the habits? Like I'm not you, because I'm sure you hear that sometimes too.
yeah.
Like I just can't do this.
Carve out whatever time you can. If it's 10
Mhm,
minutes, put it on your calendar, carve it out and do it. You're not going to want to do it all the time. Do you know how many
mhm,
days I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do this.
mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
want to climb, my bike up this stupid mountain, but I'm going to get destroyed in 3 weeks in Spain, but I have to do it.
Mhm.
And it just becomes just like brushing your teeth. I don't want to brush my teeth every night after I've watched a movie and I've already fallen asleep on the couch, but I do
Yeah.
it because it's what I've always done.
Yes.
So
You
just
have to do it.
even if it's, 10 minutes and I know like, I think Jerry Seinfeld, who I love, said
Mhm,
he would never go more than 2 days
mhm.
without for him, it was like writing scripts, writing jokes
Okay.
or
Yeah.
whatever. But it makes it applicable. Like, do not go
Sure.
more than 2 days. And even
Yeah.
if you get in and you do 10 minutes, it's telling your brain like I always tell my clients, I'm like, you know, say their name's Sally. This is Sally 2.0. Sally 2.0, this is what she does. She
Mhm,
works out X amount of days, whatever that
mhm.
number is, and she
Mhm.
works out for at least whatever that number is, 10 minutes minimum. Like, don't set yourself up. It doesn't matter. And if you don't hit it, fine. But like, if you're going, this is what you do during this time, either down in your basement, next to your desk, or at a gym. Doesn't matter.
Mhm. Yeah.
But
No, I
build the
love that
habit.
this is Sally 2.0. Like, we're not talking to the old person. That's
No,
actually a cute little way to put it. Like, we're not talking to the old, well, she's gone.
no,
She's not alive anymore. We're talking to the next version, and to kind of
yeah,
live in that future self kind of thing, and no more than 2 days without being the person that you're intending to be,
yep,
whatever that case may be. And I
exactly.
talked to Bill Campbell the other day on my podcast, and he talked about that, about not that specifically, but that reminded me of something he said. And it was so true. And I thought, well, that is really true. He said he could be 20 some percent body fat and not work out and not do the things that he intended to do, and he would feel really crappy about himself and might eat more cookies or what have you. And then, but if he was that same body fat, the same nutrition, and he did the workout and he promised himself that he would do that, and he showed up, he would feel like on top of the world, and he might
Yeah,
not eat the extra cookies, because
yeah,
that's kind of like a confidence kind of thing. So I like how you said that. Talk to the Sally 2.0. Don't go more than 2 days without
yes.
being the person you intended to be.
And
Yeah.
I have to just say, and like before we wrap this up,
Mhm,
Bill Campbell, I've had him on multiple times.
mhm,
We've all had multiple guests on.
mhm.
He is without a doubt the nicest person in the fitness industry.
He's so nice. Yeah, very
Like,
kind.
no ego, like
Mhm.
not a creep, no,
Yep.
like just a good, like the gentleman of the fitness industry is what I've gave him the title, because he's just a good one. He's
Yeah.
solid, and if you're following anyone, you should be following him. So
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good one, and also he has all of the research behind
yeah,
everything that I think we're looking for. Yeah, I
yeah.
love it so much. Well, Hailey, thank you so much for your time. I am going to obviously put where everybody can find you on Instagram. You have a YouTube, don't you?
Yeah, I think I have it all.
Okay. So they can find you on Instagram, find all the things. I'm going to link your podcast up because you have a lot
Yeah,
of amazing guests on there. Again, that one about the habits, I think that was the most recent one I just listened to. And I was
yeah,
like, I always take notes in my phone. So I have a lot of notes from that one. She
yeah,
was a great guest. I don't
great.
really know who she was, but I just, got a lot from the podcast and the book. And then they can obviously find you there, Hailey Happens Fitness.
Yep.
And I love it so much. I am so proud of your mission and proud to get to know you a little bit here.
You too. It has been so lovely. Thank you for
Thank
having
you
me.
so much. Yes.